There are basically two tools that you can use. If you are an American, not a permanent resident with a green card, only Americans can petition with a K-1 visa. It's called a fiancé visa. And it used to be a great tool because before the pandemic, it could take 6 months. Right now, it's taking over 14, 15 months. And then your fiancé enters the US with the intention to get married to the American within 90 days. And then the American needs to petition the green card, and then that can take another year. So it's not really convenient because you need to wait more than a year and then enter, marry, and wait another year. The other way is to get married somewhere outside the US because your fiancé cannot enter. Mm-hmm. You get married in Mexico or I don't know, wherever. And then as a spouse, you start the green card process through their consulate. That depends on the consulate, can take over a year or two, but they enter with a green card. They enter and get the green card right away. They don't need to marry and start a green card process in the meantime. So in simple words, before the pandemic, the K-1, the fiancé visa was good because you get to enter quite quickly and then you start the process like living here. Now, the K-1 visa is not a good option, in my opinion, if it's taking over so many months. So it's probably better just to get married and start the green card right away and then wait. But that will depend on the consulate and the specific case.
Do you have a better chance that if you get married before you start the process, that they would be more trusting that the relationship is actually real versus doing the K-1 visa and bringing a fiance to maybe get married later?
That's a really intelligent question because once you're married to an American, that's a special family category, an immediate relative that is really important and favored in the law and in the processes. On the other side, if you are not yet married, you don't have that special relationship. She or he is not an immediate relative. And then, the process is slow. The government here, for some reasons, can suspend the program, or the consulate is not processing the interview, so it's taking more time. But when you're dealing with the spouse of an American, then that's a different story. That's why I like it more at the moment. That can change, obviously. Mm-hmm. Hopefully. I hope it changes because the Department of State said a couple of years, a year and a half ago, the K-1 visa, the fiancé visa, would be second priority in consulates, and they didn't do anything about that. And then they reversed that back, and we are stuck in these long months of wait, and people are frustrated. Imagine you want to marry, and you need to wait a year and a half in some instances to get with your loved one and get married and start your family. It's frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I bet there's a lot more cases of that happening because of this phenomenon. I don't know if you have heard about the passport bros. Have you heard about that?
No, what's that?
You haven't heard about the passport bros?
So, sounds like a scam, but tell me.
Yeah, I'm just making speculation here, but with the relationship of the cases with the passport bros. So passport bros is this tendency now that American guys who are not really good looking or outgoing, they have a hard time with women here in America. Yeah. They just go to another country on vacation or for a week or to like live there for a little bit. And now because they're Americans and they get paid in USDs, now they can go and like fancy whatever women they would want. And I'm pretty sure that a bunch of those guys are gonna end up falling in love with some beautiful Argentinian or Colombian girl, and then all of those cases are gonna skyrocket. So I was curious to know if you have heard about anything like that.
This has been going for ages. I didn't know the term, but this practice.
I think you need to make a video on this, Julio.
Yeah, maybe. No, I haven't heard the specific term, but the concept is not a new thing. But yeah, of course, the American citizenship is well regarded across the world. You have people, for that reason, like the US is the #1 country for immigrants in the world to this day. And so, yeah, I can see that. But again, for the audience, for a green card process with an American, it has to be based in love, in a real relationship. Otherwise, you're entering into criminal activity. If you get married just for the papers, just for that's a crime. If it's a fake marriage, that's a crime. We know a lot of people do that, and they get the green cards. And then you see Americans extorting the fake spouse, asking for money. Otherwise, they will report that fake marriage.
But if they report it, don't they get in trouble too?
They can, but in practice they won't, because the law in place says 5-year prison term. You can have a fine of $250K, but they rarely enforce that. What they enforce is that they may take your green card away, or at least the immigrant doesn't know, and the American is extorting just as a bluff, and they are asking for, and you enter in this relationship or based on extortion. Like, yeah, I help you, I already paid you, and now you want more money. And it's like, yeah, give me the money or I will go and report this. And we see that a lot.
Yeah, I hadn't heard about that side of the
it's common practice.
Yeah, what I hear is that it's very difficult to be able to find someone that would be willing to do that because the risk is so high. Because when you think about $250,000, that's an insane amount of money.
Of course.
And then the risk of going to prison 5 years. I mean, even 1 year, nobody wants to do that.
1 week.
So how do people do it and get away with that? Because like, how do they keep a straight face? What's the process there? Like when you apply for that, do you go somewhere and like there is someone like you and you're like, I want to see if I can catch if this is fake or not?
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. You have an interview, especially if the marriage is within the last 2 years. You have a strict interview. If there are not kids like from the couple, then they will look. If you have children in common, like I always say, that's the best evidence that the relationship is real. But most people don't have kids when they just married and newlyweds. And so you have an officer, an immigration officer from USCIS, conducting an interview. They may separate you and interview separately to see if you're lying. And they can ask you whatever they want. For example, what's the color, the toothbrush color of your spouse? What side of the bed is she sleeping? Who bought the dog that you have? How much did the dog cost? What was the food in the wedding? Who paid for that? They can ask for whatever. So people, what they do, they train, they live together for a few weeks or months just to get a sense of how it's living to other person. And some get away with it. Of course, USCIS officers are trained to spot liars, but sometimes people get away with it. And if the marriage is new, they don't give you a final green card. They give you a conditional green card for 2 years. And then you may have another interview after 2 years to see if the marriage is still ongoing and with more questions.
What happens if you get divorced in that time?
There are some exceptions. You can get divorced and still get the green card even if you divorced. You can do that. Also, if the American spouse is, abusing the immigrant, there are solutions for the immigrants to still get the green card. Because we see that sometimes there's a disbalance of power in the relationship between the American and the immigrant, because the American has the key to open, the green card for the spouse, and then you have this disbalance. And there's a specific law for this called VAWA, which is Violence Against Women's Act, but it's also for men. If your parents, American parents, your spouse or your children abuse you as an immigrant, you can get a green card even without their help. And if you have unlawful presence or unauthorized you work without permission in the U.S., that can clean your record. So it's a good law for abused people, for domestic violence.
Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. If you liked it, please send it to a friend and share it with someone. I'm trying to do these conversations as often as I can so I get to meet interesting people like Julio, and I really appreciate your time. Check out this other episode that we have over here, and we'll see you on the next one.